thank you so much. You guys like the show?
Oh yeah.
Thanks. I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. Thanks. I'll just go one. I got plenty of time. I'll stay. I know it's really late, but I'll take as much time as you guys need. Thanks everybody for coming out. I really enjoyed it. It's something I wanted to do for a really long time, and I think the show lived up to expectations. And also, I think we did a lot of great things, and hopefully we can keep doing it. Keep doing great things every year here, and even from the show, continuously raising funds. So I'll just take questions until you guys are good. What do you guys have? Anybody?
Cody mentioned wanting to do this show again, maybe like in December. Is that maybe a possibility?
I don't know about the time. We haven't picked
colder.
an exact date, but yeah, we could definitely do it in a colder time of year. I mean, yeah, ideally it'd be really good. I think it was from the get-go. It was like this was kind of the initial picture before Kenny approached us with the opportunity to do what became Fighter Fest. Was the show he did in collaboration with CEO, and then we put our kind of stamp on it.
Yeah.
We were looking to do this as kind of the event in between to kind of keep events going in between Double or Nothing and All Out, and I think we like some amazing things happen, and now we have really great stories going into All Out, really great action, and also we just served like really great matches. And to be honest, it was one of the first 3 shows I conceived because I really wanted to give back to the community, and the charitable aspect of the show was something I really felt serious about. It was ever since the Madden shootings at the Landing, which anybody who's been around Jacksonville and knows it, if you're a local person, you may know like downtown Jacksonville, that's very close to the stadium and our facilities, and where the team it spends a lot of time, and so it was a very personal thing, and that's why I was really happy that we could do something to give back after all the terrible things, and hopefully prevent all those terrible things. So I'm not sure exactly the date and time, but obviously, probably in the future maybe we'll pick a different month. But I think definitely come back. Yeah.
Last time you were here, it was during the rally, and now you're having an actual event here. So what does it mean to kind of bring this back per se home and having your dad here and just having him back?
It was awesome. My mom came. My dad came to Double or Nothing, so that was pretty awesome. And he was at the rally, and he was at Double or Nothing. So he'd been at a show, but it was emotional. It was really cool. My mom came, and that was really nice. And she had a great time, and she said so, and they just left. And that meant a lot to me that they did that. So that was cool. Coming back here, it means everything. It's like a home game, and it meant a lot. And to have Doug and Calais and everybody, it really felt really special. And it was all the wrestlers were really cool about it too. They knew it meant a lot to me that we wanted to do this show, and it's something that I'd been serious about, like I said, from the get-go. But I also thought the guys delivered. Like, guys worked really hard and put really great matches out. And I hope it was a really good example of our product now, because obviously we're going into All Out August 31st at the Sears Center, and it's going to be, I think, a really big pay-per-view. I have really big expectations for it. But I think we set a bar really high with Double or Nothing. We set a bar high with Fighter, and then tonight I think we set a really high bar. And I wanted to do it here, and it really feels cool. Fighter was just down the road in Daytona, and then to do this here, it's been really nice to be home and to go back. I've gone back and forth a couple times to London, but it's been nice to be home. When I'm doing the shows, it's been good to be here. So it means a lot. Thank you for asking.
Tony.
I want to get him before it's his bedtime.
You own now a major wrestling company, and you're the co-manager of a football team. How hard is it to own both of those at the exact same time?
It's really hard. I'm not technically I'm not the co-manager. I'm like the general manager, director of football of Fulham, and then I'm the senior vice president of analytics, and I'm an owner of all 3, AEW and Fulham and the Jaguars, and a lot of other businesses too. So it's really hard and really complicated. And a lot of times it's like one of those sitcoms where you're on 3 dates at the same time, and you're running out, and you've got people in one room, and you're going in. It's really hard, but I do my best to devote attention to it, and I do think I add value to all the companies, or I wouldn't be as involved day to day as I am. So even in we did a major soccer transfer into the world of football. You probably know it as soccer. There's football. Here's the Jaguars. English football is Fulham, where I'm the director of football. So even today, I've gone back and forth and done a soccer transfer in England. So had negotiated that in between this and Fighter, and gone back before Fighter. And it was really something we've been working on since April. So you're the first person to interview me in person about this football transfer because of your question. But it's a very good question. It's really difficult, and every day is kind of a juggling act. But we'll take it as we go, and I think hopefully things will be good with both the teams, Fulham and the Jaguars, and I think AEW is off to a great start. I've seen you at the shows. You seem to be having a good time. I feel like we're past your bedtime here. What's your bedtime?
I stay up pretty late. I don't really have a bedtime except for school days.
I understand that. I used to stay up late too. That's good. That's how I became this. That's how this all happened, because I stayed up late at night and watched wrestling and David Letterman and stuff past midnight. So that's good. Well, I'm glad we kept you up past midnight. It's good. Something good came of it.
The look of the venue was incredible, and obviously something a little different for wrestling.
how you envisioned it, or was it?
Yeah, did you see I tweeted? I don't know if any of you guys have all been in here, so you may not have seen. I tweeted about this. So I put out. I've got a photo, and when you see it, it'll kind of explain itself. Have you seen? Who's seen the wrestling episode of South Park?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know the setting in the backyard, and you see the photo I tweeted. You'll see tonight. It's amazing, but it was over a year ago. I did a layout, and on Instagram I actually posted both. On Twitter I just posted the layout of tonight with the crowd, but I actually posted from over a year ago what I originally envisioned it like, just like with Daly's place in the South Park, and it looks like it's crazy. It was my because my thought is with an amphitheater, the challenge is where do you put the ring? How do you present to the crowd? And to me, what's great about it is you put the ring in the pit, you open up so many possibilities for what you can do with the staging and create more not exactly a 360, but more of a round experience for an amphitheater. It opens up a lot of different venues, but obviously this is our home venue, so I'm really happy with it. And but when you see the photo, I think it'll answer your question a little bit. And it was a fun thing, and it turned out really well, I think. And it's very different, but I think again we can use similar staging for television. I think it came off really well from what I saw on TV. Austin, what's up?
Tony, what's up, man? So you help run the Fulham FC.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then you help run the Jaguars as well, and now you're All Elite Wrestling. In terms of contracts, what's the easiest negotiations to do? Is it soccer, football, or wrestling?
Well, I don't do the
And
Jaguars.
what's the
I'm not the
hardest?
GM of the Jags. So
But
we
I
know
know,
firsthand
but-
Dave and Tom.
But you're,
and,
you're still on that atmosphere.
Sure, I'm
So-
firsthand. The only ones I do are the undrafted free agents, which
Yeah.
I have a pretty good track record with.
So due to contracts, which is the easiest to deal with, which is the hardest to deal with?
I don't know what the hardest I would say. I mean, honestly, this was a really unique thing because it's like a Wild West market, right? Because it's you're pulling wrestlers from all over the world, and that's kind of like English football too. You're pulling people from all over the world. It's very challenging. I would say that English football, getting people and doing it is very challenging because people start very young. You're taking players that can be teenagers. I mean, we've played multiple players in games in the high level at 16 years old, not just one, but multiple players that are really good. And so it's really challenging capturing that. I think it's a really good question. Yeah, it's great to see you here. It's cool being back in the stadium.
That's weird.
It's weird, yeah.
Tony, go ahead. You go.
It's not that often that a tag team match is the main event of a pay-per-view. It was awesome and it was different. Whose idea is it to have a match like that to be the main event?
I was in a group chat. We were talking about it in our collective chat that we all talk. That's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of messages deep. And it was one of those things. And I can't remember if it was Cody or Matt or Nick, but somebody said it, and just that we do it. It might have been Cody, but the guys dreamed up. It was perfect, and everyone is one of those things where so often when one of us has an idea that's good, almost everyone's going to chime in and be like, yeah, that's a really good idea. We all bought into it right away. It was a great, perfect main event for this. It's like a feel-good match on a show where there was, Chris got some heat on Hangman, and then Hangman obviously got the comeback, but really a feel-good show in a lot of ways. I don't think we really crossed lines, or didn't intend to at least, and presented still a really compelling show. It's just the goal is for TV, and I think it was a pretty good run. It was very different from Fighter, very different show from Fighter, and a lot of people ask me specifically what you might see different from Fighter from our TV show, and I thought this show was probably more reminiscent of what you'll see on TNT, if that makes sense.
What did you think of the length of the show tonight? And what are the challenges it will present when you do TV and that time restrictions will be tight?
That was really good. I mean, certainly like Cody said, with the heat and stuff, maybe you could have done one less match, but I felt like every match was really good. And there wasn't one match that I thought you wouldn't want to have because I thought everybody delivered and we told stories and there were compelling reasons for there to be all these matches, either going into it or at least coming out. There were really compelling reasons, I think, for all these matches, and some of them you may not know yet, but we'll have compelling reasons that we did these matches. And I think I thought it was great. I really loved the show. I mean, my feel watching it was I thought it was a great length, but I understand if it's a really hot show, maybe you wear people down, but I didn't feel that. I mean, I felt like people loved the main event. It was and certainly everybody was really excited and pumped down to the speech at the end, and I mean the match is over and still people everybody couldn't get enough of what they were seeing because everybody knew it was a special moment, both the reconciliation of Cody and Dustin Rhodes and the Young Bucks, but also what was to come with the Czech celebration. And it was cool for me to get my dad out there. I was excited to do that, have Kenny go out with him and Brandy. That was neat.
October's not that far away. When do you guys plan on starting to announce what venues you're going to be running?
We'll announce it won't be that long. I mean, it's coming, and we're working on it, and there'll be definitely an announcement soon. And I would say, hopefully we've got a lot to do before All Out, but we've also got some time before All Out to build, the stories, build up the Chris Jericho Hangman title match, build up Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley, and build up, Cody Rhodes versus Shawn Spears, and build up more of the big matches that we have planned. So I think like I would say well before All Out, and I can't give an exact date, but certainly before, it'll be before All Out, but we're really focusing on getting to All Out. And along the way, I'll definitely have more information.
Will the TV night announcement come before All Out too, or no?
Yeah, we'll definitely make an announcement before All Out of night and some dates and stuff, and it'll be really exciting. And hopefully announce what we're gonna do. A really big debut show planned, and then after that, I'm really excited because I think there's been a void for a long time, and I think the interest we've done and the business we're doing shows that like there's a real genuine demand for our product, and that there is a demand for wrestling with these kind of production values and this caliber of wrestling, this kind of focus on wrestling, and just like the mindset we have for it. And it's pretty cool. I think people questioned if there was enough audience to sustain a major league, high production value, second wrestling company nationally, weekly. I think like we've shown there is. I don't think there's any question now. And we made a big gamble, and I think it's going to pay off. So, but closer to All Out, I think you'll see more, which will be really exciting, given what All Out represents historically and where we'll be going back to.
Tony, how JR? I was at JR's show last night. He was talking about how he was at the production meeting for the show tonight, and he was saying like how it's so refreshing in regards to it being like it was only like under an hour. That's all we did is talk about like how it went and how quick it was, and but people knew what they were doing and everything like that. Talk about a little bit how it's been having JR as a senior advisor, as well as just like the process and how cohesive it's been.
It's very reassuring. I mean, Jim adds a lot of value as the voice of, first and foremost, the voice of wrestling. And how can you add more to the product than having the voice of wrestling as the announcer? And the announcing, when it's done well, can add so much to the product, and when it's not done well, it can detract a lot from the product. And for us, I think Jim adds a ton. Jim's awesome. And then as a senior advisor, Jim, I mean, that's great too, because he's a great shoulder to lean on, and he has great advice. And also after the shows, he gives great feedback. Obviously firsthand, he's in the production meetings, he's got a lot of great observations, had a lot of great ideas. But again, we don't have to be in there all night, because I think we're really well prepared. We have good notes going in, very well organized, and all the shows have really gone well. But I have to credit Jim, because he has a lot of wisdom, but he also has been really open to different stuff, like different wrestlers, and has gone out of his way to learn a lot of wrestlers that he had never called matches for. There's some guys through New Japan that he was very familiar with and did get to know, but there's a lot of wrestlers that Jim's really getting to know for the first time through these shows, and I think he's shining across the show, and I'm really happy with all the main cards we've done, and I think Jim's been fantastic on all of them. So I'm really happy with Jim, and I'm glad he enjoyed the production meeting.
Yeah, he did.
That's great. It was a good meeting. It was a fun meeting.
Tony,
Again, he's got the early bedtime.
Are you ever gonna come to St. Louis for the Enterprise Center?
I love St. Louis. I would love to come to St. Louis. I grew up not that far from St. Louis in Champaign, Illinois. So most people in Champaign, Illinois are either a Cubs fan or a Cardinals fan, and there's some White Sox fans. So I'm not that far from St. Louis. It's a great town for sports, and it's definitely possible. I'd like to get there for sure. There's a great history of wrestling in St. Louis. Do you know about it? Do you know who Sam Mushnick is?
No.
That's a guy you should read about someday. Someday with one of these pressers, I'll take you and teach you about Sam Mushnick. Right? It'll be fun. St. Louis is a great wrestling town. Absolutely, I'd love to do that. Thanks for asking.
Tony, how are you preparing for TV, and what is it going to be like during football season when you have the Jaguars playing, and you also have AEW?
It will not be competing with NFL. Will not be on a night where we'll ever have a game, which is great, and it will also not be on Mondays, which is a really big day for me in the NFL for preparation. And I work. It's funny because Austin played on defense literally for the Jaguars. So our former defensive coordinator was actually Austin's position coach at the time. Todd Wash is a defensive coordinator now, and I meet with him on a regular basis every week. And a lot of that work starts on Monday right after the previous game, and really get into the grind. I'll be able to at least get a really good Monday in here, hit the production meeting on Tuesday, and I'm also going to be I think you'll see frankly it's not a secret, we're either going to be doing the show Tuesday or Wednesday, and I think people are going to get an announcement on where and when soon. But the fact we're doing a weekly show on a night that doesn't compete with the NFL, that doesn't compete with, at that point, any other major national wrestling show, that allows the audience to really experience as much high budget, high profile, exciting wrestling as possible. We're gonna present that every week, I guarantee it. And so like, yeah, it's going to be really hard maintaining the schedule. I get asked about it like every presser, but it's really hard. But again, like, I mean, we pulled. The Fulham fans are very, we've had. I was not happy when the club got relegated. It was every bit as miserable as it was exciting 1 year earlier when they got promoted, and it was certainly a far cry from where they were a few years over before I took over as a general manager. They finished 17th and 20th. And then I took over, we finished 6th and 3rd, and then got promoted 3rd. And this year, unfortunately, out of 20 teams in the Premier League, we finished 19th. It's very hard. Most teams that come up out of the championship actually do. 16 out of 27 playoff winners have been immediately relegated. It was really hard on me, and it was also at a very difficult time as we were kind of getting this going into Double or Nothing. But I was working in both places, and actually in April, I started working on a transfer that we pulled off today, and was able to be in the production meeting last night, up this morning, and securing, which I think a really important piece of business for Fulham's future, and that's a good example. It's a light time for the Jaguars right now. It's going to absolutely, when TV gets going, it's going to be nuts. But I'm going to do my best, and I think we can do well in all places: AEW, Fulham, and the Jaguars, and all the other businesses I work at.
It seems like every wrestling owner in history has been an on-screen character. Are you giving thought to potentially doing that? Are you open to that if the story is right? Or are you like?
I don't think every wrestling owner and character has been. I mean, at least
seems
broadly,
a
a lot of times just like a broad baby face, doing what I had my dad do, bring the check out or whatever. I mean, I wasn't it wasn't like Jim Crockett ever turned heel or you don't have to do it. You know what I mean? I don't think you can just be if my dad hadn't wanted to do the thing, I could have just as easily brought the check out, and I don't think I would have been trying to be a character. We're just trying to do a nice thing for the city. It's our building, and he owns the building that we were doing it in, so I thought it was cool. But I was glad he wanted to do it because I didn't want to go out. I really don't have no desire to go out there. I'm happy sitting behind the curtain at that desk.
Your dad, the Jack Tunney of the company? He's the Jack Tunney of the company?
Is my dad the Jack Tunney?
Yeah.
No. We don't have and we don't need to have. I don't think we need to have that. And I think booked by committee, and I think that's good enough to know. And I don't think any one person's agenda. I don't think it should ever be a distracting thing. And I think we'll go out of our way not to make it ever feel like there's an overpowering authority figure, because I think it's common sense, good wrestling. We'll do things that make sense by committee. And we have not just the EVPs and stuff, but I think for people involved in matches, we have a great team of coaches. We have Billy Gunn, we have Dean Malenko, we have Jerry Lynn, and Billy Gunn, Dean Malenko, Jerry Lynn, those are guys on a championship committee, guys that can be involved, and and you could see that. Yeah. But there's a lot of great voices in the room that offer a lot, and but I it's a good question.
You've jumped into pro wrestling. Vince McMahon is jumping into football. What do you think of the XFL?
I don't want to comment. I don't want to comment on other football leagues. I love the NFL. I love working in the NFL. It's been amazing. I've been here over 7 years, and since the beginning of 2012, since and Austin, right when Austin got into the league, actually, the previous owners actually drafted Austin, and Austin was there right when we took over for a couple years. And I love being here. It's a great experience for me. I don't think there's any other league in the world that competes with the National Football League in football. And but I love football. I love college football, and I love other leagues. So if there is another football league, I will be following it. I will be scouting the players. I'll try. So but yeah, that's about it. I don't really want to comment on other leagues particularly. I wouldn't give you a big rundown on the CFL either, or any other league, and not just to single those out, but any of the other many professional football leagues other than the NFL in America.
How excited are you to go back to Chicago for All Out now? Because one would assume you're at All In last year.
I was there.
And All In was a big reason, I think, why All Elite Wrestling came to fruition.
I mean, to be honest, I conceived the idea of All Elite Wrestling, and the idea, like I say, if you look at this, in July, it was over a year before we did the show, I had actually put a layout together of what I thought Daly's Place could look like, how you could dress it up. And this episode of South Park, I think it was called WTF, the World Takedown Federation, right? So yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about it for a really long time, and I think that the success of All In just maybe really reinforced what I already believed to be true, that there was a market for this, and that there was an opportunity, and that with the right network partner, or the right media partner, it could be done, and not just the right media partners domestically. We have the best media partner you could ever ask for domestically with Warner Media, TNT, BR Live. But also, I mean, the history of wrestling there is great, but what we have going on with ITV, and I'd like to continue that partnership, hopefully, and I think there's a really good opportunity from everything we've been talking about there, which has been another benefit of spending a lot of time in London, I think. They have a great history of wrestling as well, and I think we have a great relationship, and I think that can continue too. So, again, ITV in England has one of the richest histories in wrestling. TNT in America has one of the richest histories, and I think other countries too that have a good history of wrestling on TV. You'll see us getting really good media partners, and again, so a long time out, I kind of saw this coming. But certainly I was at All In. I'm a friend of the family's. Cody was here with his mom. I was sitting with her, and I was sitting with the Massies, and just kind of laying low with friends of the family and enjoying the show. But I absolutely, it means a lot to go back, and it's cool because it's like a home and home. I mean, with the 3 shows, it's pretty cool because Daytona's right down the road, and then we're here, and then I am from Champaign, Illinois. I'm from Illinois, and so many, countless of my friends from home are from Hoffman Estates, Schaumburg. So my college roommate lives like 15 minutes from the Sears Center. I stayed at his house with his baby last year, and so I really I appreciate you asking. So it's another home after this. It's another homecoming for me.
A little follow-up question.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm not sure if you can really answer the question yet, but when you're talking about going to TNT, when you get more pay-per-views, how's that model going to work?
It's hard. It's a really complex question. I think I have an idea, and I don't want to roll anything out, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse. But it's a good question. There will be pay-per-views. Right now we're doing roughly. It's not exactly spaced out month apart, but effectively, there's a pay-per-view in May, Double or Nothing, and then there are pay-per-view level shows in June and July with Fyter Fest and Fight for the Fallen, and then now big, huge pay-per-view coming up, as you referenced, All Out, August 31st. And so, that's rough, one per each month. And I think that's a good rhythm, but I think we have shows like Double or Nothing and All Out that are at the very highest level, and you'll see with All Out, Double or Nothing, I think, set the bar really high, and I was really, a lot of you guys were there, I think most of you guys were, and it set the bar very high, and it was, I think, a really critically acclaimed wrestling pay-per-view. There was also a very commercially successful pay-per-view, and also established a lot of things, like right out of the gate, that I find really interesting, because look, when I got into this, one of the things I was hoping is that, in the market for a second wrestling company, that there was enough of that there was enough there, and that we had enough, that we had a chance to basically pick up where WCW left off. I was really hoping we could pick up where WCW left off, and I would have been really happy to pick up doing maybe a little better, but numbers like they were doing when they ended off. And I figured, well, if we can just get back to where when WCW ended, we could pick up and do what a great thing this would be for wrestling. The fact is, the numbers we did on pay-per-view, over 100,000 pay-per-view buys. I don't think any WCW show did that in the last 8 months of the company after Hulk Hogan walked out. They never did. So after Hulk Hogan walked out, they never did 100,000 buys the last 8 months they were in business. So we're not just, and on pay-per-views, we're not just to where they were at the end. We're to where they were well before the end. And then when you look at live attendance, I don't think there was a WCW show that did 10,000 after Spring Stampede.
Someone doing 4.
At the United Center? Yeah, United Center of April of 2000. So that's almost a year, 11 months before the company went out of business. So the last 11 months out of WCW, they didn't do any gates over 10,000 live paid. We're doing 2 now in our first 4 shows, and the other, the other 2 weren't even set up for that. But I think, I do think absolutely, we have a great chance to do something special. And as far as the number of pay-per-views, I'm not sure what the right number is, but I do know there's going to be shows that are going to be longer, where there's going to be more behind them. And, I think you'll see that. And it's not just me picking those shows. It's natural selection. You'll see, I think there's going to be a StarCast 3 in Chicago, and it's going to be a really special weekend. There's going to be a lot happening there. But the right number of pay-per-views, I don't know the exact number for you right now, but we won't cram. I want to give people the amount of wrestling they want to see, so we need to pick the perfect number. And I think you don't want to oversaturate, and that's one of the things we're trying to be really careful of doing here with the weekly TV, with what I expect to be a 2-hour weekly TV show that I've been pretty consistent about wanting to do, and not a lot more than that, if any. And pay-per-view wise, it's definitely, I could see why people would be concerned. Just too much is not a good thing when it comes to pay-per-view.
Tony, as far as talent goes and people working behind the scenes even in the company, are you comfortable right now with how many people you have hired, talent, and also those working in the office?
Yeah, we have a great group in the office. I mean, there's somebody who's going to add a tremendous value, then I'm always looking for somebody that's going to make this a better company, and I think people like that are, come available. But at this time, we have a great group, and I'm really happy about where we are in terms of not just, in terms of the staff and the wrestling roster. I think we have a great top to bottom company right now, so I feel really good about where we're at. I think we've done a great job building, and we just have to keep producing really good shows like the 3 we've done so far. But I'm glad you asked. I think it's really good where we're at, not just from a wrestling perspective, but a staffing perspective too. The people in the office are great.
Tony, you meant a lot of you guys mentioned about it being like a sport. You want it more sports-oriented kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Is there anything more that you want to implement that you haven't really gotten a chance to yet without having a television deal or having the TV?
Yeah, I
in
think
place?
like we talked about the tag team tournament, and it won't be the only. I think that certainly that is something I'm really focused on, and right out of the gate, I think that'll be one of the key focuses. If not in the first episode of TV, certainly in the very early stages, and in October, you'll see our weekly TV shows will be focused. When we get to the fall, you'll see a heavy focus on this tag team tournament. And I think that that's similar to what you see in sports with playoffs. There'll be a similar format, and I think now there's going to be a match at All Out to determine who gets the bye in the first round, and I think there'll be a lot of interest in that too. It's a great opportunity, and I think people will be interested in that tournament because I've seen a lot of people saying that they think we have a great tag team scene, one of the best tag team scenes, and to me, I think it is one of the best tag team scenes, and that's not by accident. It's something everything's by design here, and for the most part, and I think that's one thing we've put a lot of emphasis on is tag team wrestling. So that's certainly one element of the sporting presentation, and there'll be a lot more of those to come.
Cool.
Is there you guys have a?
One last question. So there's a lot of fans here that come to these shows that are just not happy with the other product, but there's a lot of I know a couple guys that are watching that haven't watched wrestling in years.
Yeah.
So how many of those fans make up the buys and the attendance, all that?
I
Do you
think
have with the
we've seen
analytics?
there's some stuff that's been publicly available. I think we've definitely, as I've talked about the Laps fan, we've definitely, I think, woken up some old Laps fans, people that hadn't watched wrestling in a long time, to your point. And I'm not surprised to hear you say that. I mean, the data is really positive because there's like towns where wrestling's been strong that aren't necessarily the biggest towns, but we're doing really well in those towns, but we're also doing really well in just the biggest towns. I mean, in all the biggest markets, they're not just, we did big numbers because they're big towns, but we also did above average per viewer in all the biggest markets, you name them. And that's really bodes really well for us, not just in terms of we're going to be successful, we're going to do big ratings, but now for advertisers, that's really valuable. And I hope we gave people a show they can really hang their hat on. And again, this is probably more along the lines of what you'll see from a TV show from us in terms of pushing the line, because look, it's a great wrestling product, and I don't want to give people something that they feel isn't exciting. I felt like we did a really, really exciting show, and in a 2-hour live TV format, I think that's similar. And maybe on TV you could even push the envelope a little more, but I wouldn't. Like I said, there's a difference between what we did at some of the stuff at Fyter Fest, what you might do in a lights out hardcore match, and what you do on TNT and primetime weekly. So it's a good question for sure. What's up?
No.
Anything?
It seemed like you looked like you had something.
Chris is always ready.
You always look ready to go, Chris. You gotta look.
Actually, just one last thing, because when I walked across the way here, I saw a stadium, and it was an empty stadium. But I was thinking in my head, what would happen if an AEW event happened in Jacksonville at this big stadium? Do you have long-term goals where this is what I want this?
Yeah, it would be amazing. I think there would be Jacksonville's a great place to visit, and I think people would. There's a great number of people in Jacksonville. There's a lot of fans and a lot of local people tonight. But I imagine if we did that, we'd be accommodating a lot of people, because it's no secret that our shows and All In beforehand would do a lot of fly-in business, and a lot of people fly from all over the world to see our shows, and I think it would be really cool to bring a lot of outside people to Jacksonville and have a mix of the local people who really love AEW and the Jaguars and what we do here at TIAA Bank Stadium and Daly's Place. But I also think it would be awesome to have all those people kind of come here and see it and want to come back more. So yeah, I would love it. I would like to, it's more likely we'll probably do another show in Daly's Place before we use the stadium. But yeah, it's a great venue for sure, and it would be very nice for me, and it would mean a lot to me if we could do it.
Tony, there's been over the course of the few pay-per-views, there's been a few multi-person matches a lot of the time. Is that in regards to just trying to showcase a lot of the talent more so, and you want to get a lot of the storytelling and through that regard to get people on the show?
It's a mix, and also
Yeah.
I think you can also, like you just said, you can build a lot of stories. Alone, if you look at the 6-man tag with Joey Janela and Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc and versus MJF, Sean Spears, and Sammy Guevara, there's so many different combinations of things. I want to see a Joey Janela Sammy Guevara match from the Death Valley driver on the apron. You can replay that clip, and that's a match intro right there on a show, and that's a match I want to see. Just out of that sixer, and it's not. There's so many others, not just on the teams, the guys against each other, but within the teams and what's going on. And I think there's a bunch of issues in that one, and so with all the multi-person matches, yeah, it is by design. You'd like to feature a lot of people, but also it creates the ability when we're going into TV. We have a lot of different situations that are live interesting deals that we can go back to. And I think like there's a lot of issues right now that are like unresolved, which is awesome. And the more unresolved issues we have, the more potential great matches. And we have like this awesome roster of people. I want to see all those matches, and I think people do too. So yeah, it's good. But thanks for asking. I think that it's a really logical question, but I think it's kind of both.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody got anything? That's great. Well, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys, thanks for taking the time. I know it's really late, and thank you. And I'm glad, I think we got AJ again. Went to bed, right?
Yeah, I think you might.
Good. That's why I wanted to get his questions out of the way.
Gotta get that
Good.
pineapple pizza in, buddy. You know.
That's great, man. That's great. Well, if it comes to all out, they can take him to like the bowling thing after, and you can go get like a pizza and stuff. That's great. That's fun. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate y'all being here. And hopefully, I'll see you all at All Out and TV shows, and hopefully, I have more announcements for you guys before All Out. If I see you guys, I think we're going out to LA for the Television Critics Awards, like around, I think it's July 24th. So there'll be some stuff out there. So maybe I'll see some of you guys out there, and hopefully we'll have some good stuff to announce by then. And definitely see you guys August 31st. I can't thank you enough for coming. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.